Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. My name is Aldrine Guerrero. Joining me are Mr. Aaron, the voice, Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron.
What's up?
And Mr. Kahai, the legend, Fergan. Say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
Gentlemen, it is 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time on a Monday. That means it's time for the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. And what that means is we basically answer any and all of your ukulele questions or non-ukulele questions, whatever questions we get from the audience. May it be via the live chat, because we are live for this podcast. So you guys can ask us questions in the live chat. You guys can leave a comment below. Let us know if you guys want to ask anything. And while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Yeah. And also you guys can email us your questions. We'll flash the email later on. They don't have to deal with that right now, right, Guy? All good. Or do you want to?
Up to you. I don't know.
Nah, we'll just show them. We'll just flash it real quick. You know what I mean? Just boom. That's it. Bam. Questions at ukuleleontheground.com. However you guys want to give your questions to us, we'll try to answer it as best as we can. I'll try to give you my 2 cents. Aaron and Kahai will also give in their 2 cents. We'll come up with the best 6-cent answer just for you folks. So here it is. Just as a what's the word I'm looking for? As a disclaimer, it is not necessarily a Q&A that we're doing right now. It's more like a Q&O. If you guys have questions, we'll give you opinions on those questions that you guys may have.
Our best guesses.
Our best, our educated guesses, our hypotheses, Q&H.
Yeah. We label the live stream as questions and answers just because it's like kind of weird to do Q&O or like
nobody knows what that is.
Yeah. So. But that's basically what we're doing here based on our collective knowledge and experiences on the subject of ukulele or any other subject. We'll try to give you our best answers. Okay. So with that said, gentlemen, what are we talking about? What do you guys want to touch? You guys want to talk about stuff? You guys want to talk about Survivor Series that happened this weekend? I'm so excited. CM Punk back home. WWE left AEW, had all those problems. Now he's there. But what do you think about that, Kai?
It's great.
No? I should have worn my CM Punk shirt. I used to wear it all the time on this show, and now he's finally back, and I'm not representing. I should wear it next week.
Yeah, it's so good that Mike isn't here because you know how much he hates wrestling. How much I love wrestling.
Don't you dare talk about wrestling in front of Mike. Yeah. If you ever want to leave the room, if you ever want to be somewhere, if you gotta be somewhere, if you want to go to sleep.
12 hours later.
Yeah, 12 hours later, Mike Ono is still going to be talking about wrestling. Shout out to Mike. He might actually be listening in right now. Okay. So, shoot away, buddy. Shoot away. Yeah. No one wants to talk about CM Punk right now.
So a couple weeks ago, we talked about, or you kind of gave a couple tips on what you should do when you're taking lessons.
Yeah.
And especially when you're taking like online lessons.
Yes.
But we thought about, since you're teaching in person now, like, is there things, why don't you give like 3 things that people should do when they're taking an in-person lesson to make sure that they get the most out of their lessons?
Okay. So there's 2 kinds of in-person lessons that I feel like, that are possible if you're doing that. One would be a private lesson, just a one-on-one private lesson, or group lessons. So I have different advice for different things. Okay, let's deal with the private lesson because that's going to be the most similar to my answers in the past. Okay. First off, email the person that you're taking a lesson from. Okay, email them. Give them all the as much details as you possibly can give them about what you're looking to get out of said lesson. All right, because if you're looking for certain things, if you want to ask certain questions, it's good to ask them before the lesson happens so that it's not necessarily taking time away from your lesson for them to just kind of like think about it. It gives them an idea of what you're looking for, at least. If I'm the teacher and I read the email like, oh, I kind of want to go over this, and this, even if I don't answer you back, even if I don't come up with the answer, then I'll know that that's what you're looking for going into the lesson. So I'm not caught off guard or anything like that. I would like to at least get a heads up of what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you want to ask, what it is that you want to work on. It's things like that. And by emailing and letting them know your expectations about the lessons, then the teacher can also let you know what to expect. Okay, because I can say like, all right, that sounds good, we can work on all that, we can work on this and this. Or I could say like, okay, that might be like 2 lessons, we can be talking about this and this on the first one, this will take a little bit of time for us to really get into it, and then this and this maybe we can do for another lesson. It's things like that, you know what I mean, so that you can plan things out, and I can plan things out as the teacher. It's just good to communicate. Maybe that's just to put it in a nice little bow. Communicate with your private lesson teacher. Okay, communicate with them. Like email them, call them, text them, whatever whatever you can do to kind of just like give them a heads up of what you're looking for. Okay. Number 2 is your phone is your best friend. All right. So with your phone, ask them, ask your teacher politely if you can film, or you can just like set up like a thing where you can film the lesson. That would be the best. If they're uncomfortable with that, ask them if you can take like a voice memo recording of the lesson. Because for me as a teacher, you're paying for this lesson. This is your lesson. Like I feel that these 30 minutes, 15 minute, 1 hour, whatever, however long your private lesson is, it's for you. Yeah, so you wanting to record something that you paid for should be something that should be granted, honestly. Like, I think you paid for this. This is your time. That's your 30 minutes. Those are your lessons. You do whatever you want with it, And it's good because it also shows, like how much a teacher actually wants you to get better. Because for me, as a teacher, my first priority is always like, okay, how can I help this person? And I know that, like, without a shadow of a doubt, that recording it, watching it, and reviewing what we went over is definitely going to help. So if a teacher's like, well, you can't do that. That's just somebody who's looking for another payday. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you mean like you forgot what I taught you last week? I guess we're going to have to go over it again on the next lesson. And that's, I don't know anyone of my friends who do that or anything, but I've heard it happen before, and it's definitely a tactic for people to keep other people coming back. But for myself, my first priority is always like, okay, well, whatever I can do to make sure that you get this stuff down. And for me as a teacher, I'm always looking forward to the next thing. You know what I mean? Like, for us to work on the next thing already. If you practice what we talked about the week before or the lesson before, it's always nice to like, okay, cool, we'll just review it real quick, 5 minutes, just to make sure that you caught everything. All right, next, what are we going to work on next? We're always moving forward, because as a teacher, the thing you want to see the most is progress from your student, right? That's why you teach, So number 2 would be to record it somehow, either a video recording or an audio recording, but somehow go home with something to review. Okay? If you don't have your phone, if you don't have a recording device, none of that stuff, make sure you ask for, I don't know, like maybe an outline of what you guys talked about, song sheets, things like that they can provide to you, so that you can work on something at home, and the lesson doesn't just exist within the 31 hour that you paid for. Okay, it also exists outside of that for you to work on. Okay, last but not least, and as part of communication, I think you should be open, to your teacher about your strengths and your weaknesses, and about like where you're at as far as your level goes. Just let them know that, like, okay, let them know what you're comfortable and uncomfortable with, because sometimes, like, when as a teacher, if people don't tell me like what they want, then I'll, I don't want the clock to run. I'll just like kind of think of something. It's like, okay, well, let's work on this song, I guess. Like if you can't think, because a lot of times when we had the free Ukulele on the Ground lessons, they'll just sign up, which is a great idea, to just sign up, and then they're just like, I don't know what to work on. Like, you tell me what to work on, Aldrine. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's a song from our song list that I want us to work on, and I feel like you should do. But you're like, I'm not a big fan of, I don't know, the Beatles or whatever it may be. Like, let them know. Like, it does fall under the communicate with your teacher thing, but it's more like just be honest with, with yourself and with where you're, with where you are as far as the ukulele, because it's hard for me to help you if you come in saying that you're, oh, I'm like I'm like an intermediate to advanced student. So I'm thinking that like, okay, this person can do this, this, and this. And then we start our lesson, and then like I'm talking about stuff and you're like, I don't know what that is, like, and it kind of wastes time, I guess, in a sense where like now the teacher has to kind of backtrack. It's like, okay, well, what do you know about this? So be honest with where you're at, because that's the best way that we can help you. We want to make sure that we know the level that you're at, or if you don't know, and it's fine if you don't know the level where you're at, you can just state that. Okay, you can say so, like, I don't know where I'm at, but I do know this, and this, and then or I can play for you what I'm working on, and it kind of gives you an idea that of what level I am. It's things like that. Just tell your teacher those things, okay? And that's for private lessons, like just private one-on-one lessons. Those three things, okay? Communicate with what you're with what you're looking for, what you want to work on, and all that stuff. 2, make sure to record it. 3, make sure you're open about your skill level, and you're open about what you're comfortable doing and not doing. Okay? But if you're in a group lesson, which is basically what I'm doing nowadays here on Kauai, I'm offering group lessons. And for now, we have a pop-up ukulele class that is a 3-week course, which I'm super excited about. So if you're doing that and you're going into a group session, number one is to make sure that you're prepared. That means you're bringing your ukulele. That means you're in tune. That means you're you're ready to learn. Bring maybe like a stand, if or at least ask to see if you need a stand, if you need like a notebook to write stuff in. I would bring one anyway, just to kind of take notes and stuff. A lot of the times, and I do a lot of workshops in during festivals and whatnot, and I always dig it when like somebody comes in like taking notes about stuff that I talk about, because, and I've talked about it on this show, where like you go to a festival and you're watching like 5-10 other like presenters, other workshops that day, or like within that that weekend. It's tough to retain all that information, so to kind of have something to write stuff down to make sure you don't forget those things is always useful. Okay, and it's different from like, say, I did talk about like recording the thing, but it's good because when you're in the when you're in the class, when you're in front of that person, there's always these like these either statements or things that we show you that will always hit. And I like when when people are hit with inspiration, or like come up with that aha moment, and they write it down, because that moment doesn't quite hit the same in a recording. All right, so make sure that you're taking notes. Make sure that you're that you're giving yourself kind of like a play-by-play on what certain things that the teacher said that impacted you. Okay, so for example, if you're coming into my class, my group class, and I'm talking about form and stuff, and I explain why we do certain forms, and you're like, oh my god, I didn't even think about it that way. I was holding my ukulele neck close to me, and I have these dinosaur arms, or I'm like shaking hands with the ceiling, so my palm is up like that, and that's why I can't hold the G chord or the G7 chord and stuff, because that's just most likely inner monologue, yeah? And if you're listening to it, or if you're watching the replay, it might not hit you the same the second time around. So write that down. Write it down. We're like, okay, form. Don't shake hands with the with the ceiling, and or don't have dinosaur arms, and keep your headstock close to your body like this. Always like have the triangle. It's those things. Like just write little notes, so that when you go back to the recording, you can look for those notes that you took. You're like, oh, where was that part that he said about like the about this, about the form, about the dinosaur arms, about the shaking hands at the ceiling or whatever. And then when you listen back to it, you're like, that's it. That was the point. Okay. So make sure that you're taking notes, that you're prepared. So you're going in there with and you're really just ready to learn. Like show us that that you want to learn stuff, that you're there to learn and not just to like, to socialize or to like, okay, well, Aldrine's doing a workshop, so I might as well just go and just listen to him talk and stuff. Like, I don't really care about what he says, but I'm there to like listen to him talk, which is, I guess, fine. If you don't want to like learn anything and you're just there to just like to hang out, I guess, which is cool. But if your plan is to learn something, especially because if you paid for it, especially if you paid for it, it's not like a free class or whatever, I would be prepared and I would take as much notes as possible. Two would be same thing, to record it, ask, first ask, okay? Don't forget to ask. You have to ask to see if you can record the video. But in a group class, I would be hesitant to ask for a video because you might catch video of other people in the class and they might not be, comfortable with doing something like that. So an audio is usually pretty good. Either that, or if you can set up like a little tripod that only faces the the teacher or the stage where the teacher is teaching, that's good too. Just kind of be careful about like catching other people. People might not be as comfortable as you are like on camera, so that's the thing too. It's like a privacy thing, yeah. So make sure that you're asking the teacher, you're asking them if you can film it or if you can record the thing, so you have something to take back home. All right. Last but not least, boom. Ask as many questions as possible. You guys have no idea how many times I've gone to like a workshop. And I always ask, do you guys have any questions? Nobody says anything. And then I get bombarded at the end of the thing. We're like, I was just wondering. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, like, tell me, and I'll still help you and stuff. But for the most part, that's what the question, like, anybody have any questions for? And I always say in my workshops, like, anything like not related to this workshop, you guys just want to ask me, you guys can just go ahead and feel free to ask me anything, like just ask away. If there's anything that you're looking for, especially if it's an ukulele player that you've been watching on YouTube or if you've been following their services, like if you've been following Ukulele Underground or a part of their Patreon, like these kind of teachers and stuff, definitely ask all the questions, as much of the questions as you can, as any question you can think of, just ask it. It's a great opportunity because one, because you paid for it, you paid for the right and privilege to be there to ask those questions, so you should. Two is you just never know. You just never know when you'll see that person again and when you'll have access to that kind of knowledge again. Myself and a bunch of ukulele teachers, professionals, and people that do festivals, all of us have different different journeys and different stories and different experiences and different like ukulele styles and stuff. You're gonna get a different answer every time. Okay, so have questions and always ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions. No question too silly, honestly. To ask, especially if the presenter is asking for you to ask questions. Like, does anybody have any questions? Just say so. No question too dumb, too stupid, or whatever. Don't think like that. Like, just ask away. That's your privilege. You're there. You paid to sit in that seat to listen in. You paid to learn. Ask away. Don't be scared. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And most of the time, somebody else is thinking that same question.
Yeah, you never know. You just never know too. Like if someone else wants that question answered, but is too scared or like don't know how to word it. Like maybe they want to ask it, but they're just like, I don't know how to bring this up, or I don't know how to ask. But there's this thing, and you know what I mean. Like just ask. Just ask. You never know who it's gonna help. Yeah. So those three things. Be prepared. Yeah. Record. Ask questions, and if I could put in one last one.
No. Moving on.
For both of those,
no,
is to listen. Like, I know that sounds generic, but really listen, okay? And not just to the words that the that the presenter is is saying, but really listen to how they say things, how they explain things. Listen to the way their ukulele sounds, because that can be a question. If and you don't even think of it, like listen to the way that they play, watch how they play, and then ask the questions based on like that. So I was no shame back then, like when I met Jake and we got like Herbolta Jr. and all those, like, and even like Imul Garza, when I met him for the first time, I always asked like about like, how do you make your ukulele sound like that? And that sounds like a generic question, and they'll always ask, we're like, well, what do you mean? So I always ask them like, like when you play your ukulele, it doesn't sound tinny, it doesn't sound whatever, it sounds nice. How do I get my ukulele to sound nice, or to sound good, or sound like thick or whole or thin or bright or whatever, like whatever characteristics that you like about that specific player, ask them about that, because you'll never know. Like you might get the answer right there, like that. Like that will like completely change you. So do that. Really listen to the player and understand the things that they're saying, the things that they're not saying.
Yeah, I think the thing that happens, and it's like we understand, but it's like because it's like this, people miss out. Is people get excited when you like say like, oh, okay, here's a technique you can try. And you kind of demonstrate it, then people immediately grab their ukes and they start trying it out, right? And it's like, because they're like trying it out and they're looking at it and they're looking at their hands. They're not like listening to you explaining the actual technique or the actual thing fully before trying it out.
Yeah,
right?
and I say that, I try to put that in there only because like I'm thinking about my kids over at the elementary school. So I started teaching at a private school, private elementary school here on Kauai. And I'm teaching ukulele to these kids. And because they're kids, and because you put an instrument in front of them, of course they're gonna they're gonna play it. It's one of those
make
like
noise.
Yeah, they're gonna make noise. They're gonna play around with it. I can't scold them for that. I can't be like, hey, stop playing. Like, I need to explain things to you. But honestly, that transfers over to adults. to adults too, because you get excited. Like if you're taking a workshop, if you're taking whatever, you get excited. But if the teacher is talking, like really like pay attention to what they're saying. Pay attention not just to what they're saying. Pay attention to how they play. Pay attention to like what they sound like. And how they approach the ukulele, because that all matters. It's not just like the stuff that they're teaching you on their on their whatever curriculum or whatever lesson plan that they have, but it also listen in and I guess look for things that that they're not teaching, because there's things in there too. When I was traveling, and I got to spend a lot of time with like these amazing musicians like Benny Chong and Kale Gamiao and stuff. Nobody really taught anybody anything, but just by listening and watching like these players, and just by being with them or being in the same room as them, you can kind of learn a lot just by listening and watching.
Well, like when those musicians like play, you're not gonna be like, wait, everybody stop the song. I need you to explain how you did that, right? It's like you guys usually play the song, and then afterwards you're like, man, that thing you did was really cool. Can you help me? Can you explain it better to me? So
just listen. Really, like pay attention. That's it. I know, it's a lot of people get starstruck, and we talked about it last week. I was very starstruck. I fall into that same category, but you gotta ask those questions. But that's it. Just be a good student,
I think it would be helpful. Like I've seen maybe like some teachers do this, but for workshops and stuff, I think it would be helpful if like they said like, okay, I'm gonna teach you guys this thing right now, and you guys just listen, try to follow along, but don't actually play it, right? Like keep your eyes on me and just listen to what I'm saying. And then after I finish this, for the next 5 minutes, everybody can try and do it, and then we'll work through it after that. But during this period right now, all your job is to do is try and take in as much information as I'm like giving out. Not actually grabbing your uke, trying it out, like just
So those are my as like from the teacher's point of view, what
Yeah.
my advice to people taking lessons or taking group lessons or private lessons or just going to a workshop or seeing people in person, like, because that's
I think the thing I was gonna add to is that what you said with like recording and having a tripod.
Yeah.
I think even that, like if you're doing a private lesson, make sure that you have your phone ready and it's like pointed and it can stand on its own.
Yeah.
And it's not where it's like it starts recording, then it falls down, then you gotta pick it up and like if you're recording something, you should just set it up and forget about it and then be in the moment where you're focused, right? So try and make sure you have everything to make sure that you can record everything right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's it. So if anybody was interested, I have a website called Aldrine.com. Aldrine.com lists like all the places on Kauai that I'm teaching at. So I'm just kind of
playing music
I'm playing music at, also teaching and playing music at. So if you're gonna visit the island of Kauai, and you're like, yeah, I wonder where Aldrine is, like I wonder where Aldrine is playing, or if he's teaching somewhere, I'm gonna take a lesson from him and stuff. All the information is there, aldrine.com. Okay, so it lists our local events that we play at. It also lists the events that we'll be like traveling to. So I know we have a few tour dates like listed on there already, and most importantly, like even if you're not from here on Kauai, if you just go to the website and sign up for the newsletter, like we're gonna be like sending out some really cool like emails in the newsletter pretty soon. So we're trying to do a lot of like cool stuff through there because I don't want to know, how do I say this? Like for example, if I have like some cool merch like Aldi Club and things like that. If you guys or if stickers and t-shirts and sweaters and whatnot. It's not really Ukulele on the Ground related. You know what I mean? Like Aldi Club is not an Ukulele on the Ground thing. But if it's if you guys are interested in things like that, we'll probably put in the newsletter like when those are available. If I'm coming out with an album. For example, Aaron and I are currently working on a live album. That's probably going to go through aldrine.com, okay, and not Ukulele on the Ground because it's not Ukulele on the Ground related,
Yeah.
So
and you're still teaching on ukuleleunderground.com. So virtually,
yes.
like if you want to take virtual lessons,
yes.
then ukuleleunderground.com. But if you're on island, then
you might as well take a in-person lesson. We can hang out and stuff, and you can ask me all the questions that you've always wanted to ask in person. And it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. But just sign up for the newsletter. We'll always update it with like a lot of cool stuff. Okay, so go sign up aldrine.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll take questions from people.
Sure.
And Joseph said, "Can you read sheet music? How important is it? How much time should I spend on it?"
I can. I'm from a classical background. I studied like clarinets. I studied bass and contrabass clarinet. I also studied like saxophone and stuff. So I'm a classically trained musician. I actually, but as far as ukulele goes, like how important it is to read music, I'd say like it's good to just kind of understand how music works and how music stacks and stuff like that. But as far as like as its importance, not very, unless you're like looking at like some serious compositions and stuff. But a lot of the time, because I mean, ukulele in general, like culturally here in Hawaii, it's kind of shared just like the language, was. I guess I should say, just like how the language was shared, it is just through speaking and through like older generations to kind of pass it down. That's how we've approached Ukulele Underground, in sorts. We wanted it to feel like I'm just like that uncle, like that is showing you, like how to play ukulele. So if, an uncle is showing you how to play ukulele, the uncle's not going to be like, okay, now here's the musical staff. And in between the lines, it's face, so it's FACE, and we have every good boy deserves fudge. Like you're not gonna hear none of that stuff. And and you don't need to read music to to teach somebody that if they put their ring finger on the A string third fret, that's going to create a C chord. People just want to play. People just want to make that chord. I think it's if you do want to learn how to read music, I think it helps. I think it's great if you do, like, if you read music, if you study music theory, it definitely helps. Like, it's a good idea to do that. But is it important? Is it necessary? I'd say no. Like, other people might disagree, but that's why they're O's. They're not answers. But I think you can have fun, and I'm sure I'm not speaking for myself, but there's been tons, hundreds, thousands of people that have tried learning ukulele and never looked at a music sheet once and are having a ton of fun with it. Okay, so the most important thing is to how much fun are you having, right? So if you're concentrating on reading music and really making everything make sense and stuff, but if that kind of gets in the way of you having fun with the instruments, then I would say you're, it did a disservice to you rather than than help you out,
We have a member in our chat.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna say who.
Okay.
But I think very quickly they'll know who we're talking about.
Okay.
But I think the thing is that when people come from like a classical background or come from where sheet music is used more, the thing that we see too is that people think like the sheet music is always correct, so I have to follow the sheet music 100%. And especially with like ukulele, you usually find actually more music in tab form.
Yeah.
But that's also like, I would say don't feel like it's 100% matching to the music.
Yeah.
And if you're playing a song and you're reading the sheet music and it sounds wrong to you, like trust your instinct and say like, I don't think this is written correctly.
Yeah.
Whereas like we've seen people who are maybe more classically trained with sheet music and they'll play things wrong just because it's on the sheet music.
That's what it says. Yeah, that's what it says.
But it's not right on the sheet music either. Like we know what is actually supposed to be played and we have to tell them like, oh yeah, the person who made the sheet music probably just put it in by accident or something.
Yeah, and there's some things that you can't notate either, as far as playing ukulele. And a lot of ukulele music is also by feel, like it's, and a lot of rhythm is also by feel. Like I'm sure.
That swing.
Yeah, I'm sure you can still notate it in a way, but then, if you're just like, if you have to notate it a certain way, and if a person can't, can't really read that, then who's it serving, So, I think it helps. I mean, honestly, I think it's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. Like, don't hear me saying that that no, you don't need to, or it's not important and whatever. Don't take that as you don't gotta do it. But I think, you don't have to. It's not necessary. And, as far as just having fun with the instrument, no, not important. You can have fun, you can learn ukulele, you can play ukulele without reading one lick of sheet music.
I think if you learn the basics of the note names, sharps and flats, and note values, you can get that's kind of pretty you can get pretty far ukulele wise. That's usually what most ukulele music will go up to. They won't go into really complex stuff. That you have to do this type of thing here, or this is for this notation or whatever. So
and but if you learn how to read music, or if you learn music theory I feel is more important than actually reading music. The theory behind it and finding the the patterns and stuff within your instrument, in this case ukulele, using the fretboard as kind of your music sheet, and seeing the notes within your fretboard as opposed to seeing it within the music sheet, I think is more important. You know what I mean? Knowing what notes are on your fretboard, and how they stack together. And what I mean by that is knowing that the C string second fret is a D note, E string third fret is a G note, and middle finger on the A string second fret is a B note. So I know that the stack is G, D, G, B. So that, I didn't need to see it on a music sheet and stuff, but I know that these are the notes, and I can kind of, I'm not seeing them as the musical notation being stacked. I'm just seeing them as as the letters stacked on top of each other, where G, D, G, B. I'm just seeing those 4 stacked like that. So G, D, G, B, right?
Yeah.
And now, knowing that like in patterns wise, knowing that in the key of G, it's 1 sharp, F sharp, right? So G, right? So knowing that that's the stack, all those notes are great, okay? And in music theory, you can add any one of those notes in the scale to your chord and it should be all good. So if it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, that means I can play an A here. So I can like kind of play it like this, add my pinky finger to the E string 5th fret because I know it's an A. I remember said like it's important to know and see it within your own instrument, your fretboard. If you play that, you might not know what the chord is called, but you know that note or that chord is possible in the key of G. You might not know like what this chord, if I took my pinky finger, played the C note there. You might not know what that's called, but you know it's possible. You know what that thing sounds like. All of those good in that key of, in that key of G, right? But if you learn more music theory, then you'll understand it like, okay, well that, if you added that E string 5th fret there, then you're playing a G chord with an A, so it can just be like, that would be like the 9, yeah, then add 9. Add 9 because you're not like adding for it to be a 9th chord, you'd have to have the 7th in there and the 9th. But in this case, we're just adding the 9. Mm-hmm. So like it's those things that you can start to kind of explain, but you don't need that either. If you just like, if it sounds good, then it sounds good. That's like how the Beatles did it. You know what I mean? Like they just put their fingers, played whatever chord that sounded pretty good with other chords,
Yeah, I think even like when you picked out the notes in G, people would be like, oh, I gotta get like to where I'm like that fast at picking out notes.
Yeah.
And like we see people like practice kind of almost like how you would practice in school where they make note cards or they drill themselves. Yeah. It's like if you just start where it's like you know a song really well and you're like, what are the notes in this chord? And you just count up the fret. You go like C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Yeah. I feel like that's and then you just get faster by doing that. And that if you do that with like an actual song, it's you get an emotional connection to it rather than just like drilling. Because when people drill, like we'll ask them stuff like that, and they might know it, but then when it comes to actually playing it, they have a harder time like actually applying it. Or like when we tell them like, oh, so you know that like D is on the C string 2nd fret, and they'll kind of like have to think about it before like they actually know like, oh, I'm supposed to put my finger there.
Yeah. For my advice would be to just like of course to know your fretboard. Like that would be very, very, very good for for you and for your playing and stuff. If you just know all the notes and all the strings and all the frets, that is really good. So that when you have a scale like G, you know that F is sharp. So if you know where all the Fs are on your fretboard, you just don't play those Fs and you play them sharp. Like so you kind of navigate your way around the ukulele, and knowing the key that you're at, knowing which notes are available for you within that key is going to add a lot to your playing. So you're not just playing just the single chord. To answer that question, side note though, since we're talking about music theory, my understanding of music theory is not at all like an advanced music theory understanding. Like I feel like I'm an intermediate music theory like person, and with the ukulele, it's totally fine. I got pretty far in my career knowing just intermediate music theory, and I was playing around yesterday with like with just chord progressions and stuff. And something that always like kind of hit me was those minor 4 like progressions. For those of you folks that don't know, like a minor 4 is that I like to use creep as like the as the example. La da 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 dum, la da 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 dum, la da 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 dum. That.
Mm-hmm. So using the major and the minor in the same song.
Using that 4
like
major
right after.
and 4 minor to get back to the 1. I know for like advanced music theory people, they're like, oh yeah, like this next thing that he's gonna say, like of course that makes sense and stuff. But I didn't. Like, I was experimenting with that with playing in E. Yes, I still practice, everyone. I'm not afraid to say so. Like, I practice it and I try stuff out. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. You know, I'm playing in the key of E, right? And in the key of E. So if I'm playing, you know, playing that, and I'm like, okay, a 4 minor would be that, like, you know, would be the, well, I guess, what would be a D minor? No, A minor. Okay, so in this case, if I'm going E to the 4. To that. And so I'm like, okay, well, if things are relative, then could I use like a C in there instead? Yeah, so I did. I'm like, that sounds pretty good. You know, I'm like, what if I added, because the C note is not a part of that scale, like, but we have 2 C's, but the B is part of that scale. I was like, what if I use a C major 7 in there instead? So I'm in the key of E. So I tried to do the A major 7 as for my 4. I was like, oh, that sounds so nice. To the E. I just found that like really cool progression of like substitution, I guess, based on like that 4. I don't know, like I said, I made that, you know, I said that first, that my knowledge of music theory is not that advanced.
Yeah.
So
what
like,
does that sound like? There's
yes,
there's something,
exactly. There's something
like
that
a song
has that like E major 7 or like an E, like a 9. It's I was like, oh my god, that sounds so good. So it's like that A minor to the C major 7. It's kind of like, it's a really beautiful, like melodic line.
Walking down.
Yeah, I was just, I don't know how it works and why that works, but
probably just because of that, because of the walk down, right? It feels good.
I was trying to explain it to myself, and I'm like, okay, well, but that's how I landed on it. I'm like, okay, I like that, you know, that 4 and then 4 minor going to the, you know, to the E, but I'm like, let's use like the relative major, because that, you know, that counts, right?
Sure,
there's all the notes like in the A minor or that 4 minor, but it'd be that the minor 7 of that 4. All of that makes sense. But if we went to the major 7 of that minor 4 major relative, that major 7th note is part of the part of the 1. So like it kind of helps it go back home, and it just has this kind of nice haunting. It makes the major 7, like, which is usually like, you know, pretty like home feeling, but it has that like that kind of clash, that half step clash, because it is a major 7 to the 1. It's really nice. I would have never put that together, like C major 7 to the E. Yeah, I'm like, no, why would you go C? Like, the C is so far from E, you know what I mean? Like, it's
part of that.
No, it's not. Like, because if we're going circle of fifths, if we're talking C, then G, then D, then A, then E.
Yeah.
So that's pretty far circle of fifths wise, you know? So but in that case, that works. If anybody knows like advanced music theory, like explain that. I mean, I would appreciate it. But something that I experimented with, just to kind of show you guys that I'm still on the same journey as everybody else. You know, I'm learning, and that's why there are opinions, because like I might have some solid answers on some stuff, but I'm also learning the ukulele at the same time, but just kind of discovering new things, and I dig that. Like,
but even that is like. if you were just playing around and you came up with that, then the music theory is just a way to explain what you're doing, even though you just did it by feel.
Yes, that was another thing that I wanted to get at, and that's why I wanted to share it. Because earlier I said, the Beatles just played whatever sounded good. Yes.
Yeah.
That with my knowledge of music theory, I couldn't explain that because I don't have, I didn't go to music school or anything, but it sounds good and I would definitely use it on something. I would use it in substitution for the minor 4. Now whenever I play a minor 4, I'm gonna play that major 7 relative to the minor 4 instead.
Yeah.
Sounds so good. So let's just test out a theory. So in that in that song Creep, so it goes da 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 da, so very special. And you're so very special, and I'm a creep. Okay, so what is the major relative of C minor? That'd be E flat, right?
So I guess.
yeah. So a E flat
major
7. So let's try that out. But which makes sense because that D is part of that G, so it wants to resolve there. So very special. I'm a creep.
Yeah.
Like you would just sustain that. Maybe you can just sustain it so that when you land on the G chord, you would just sustain that 5 on the D.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fun. Just
sounds like
wanted to share some cool stuff that I didn't figure it out, but I just was fooling around with last night. It's cool.
Yeah. Because I think even doing what is it, or replacing chords in songs, it's you can replace a chord like you said with one chord and then go but those 2 chords are pretty similar, so what if I try replacing it with this, right? I'll often think of okay, so C is the relative major to A minor. I'll replace the A minor with the C and then go what if I try playing a C minor though in that place for this particular song?
Yeah.
Where will it push the song from there, right? And you can that's where you realize with music theory is pretty much you can do any note with any note.
Yeah.
But you just if you're trying to make it sound good, you have to be more careful about what notes you pick and even in the chord how the notes are constructed, right? Yeah. Because if you do a lower the note that's not right, but it's either too high or too low, then it stands out so much that you're that doesn't quite sound right?
Yeah, so I don't know. I want to see where else it would go. I mean, if we're being honest, I was trying to figure out a nice solo to One Day Soon, and that's why I was in E, and then that 4 with the. Because in One Day Soon the sun's gonna shine. One day soon the sun's gonna shine. You'll be mine until the end of time. So I wanted that to have a, I was how do I make a different feel to that? So maybe I can make the song my own. You know what I mean? This is how Ernie Cruz Jr. Sang it and how everyone covers it and stuff. And I'm what can I do to make that stand out? So I'm just one day soon the sun's gonna shine. You'll be mine till the end of time. So instead of that, you'll be mine until the end of time. So I can just do a passing. So bop, 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 bop to that that. That sneaking that C major 7 in there gives a whoa what was that? So next time I play with you or play with Kaniho and stuff, I'm gonna sneak it in and it's just that sounds because it's already a fast line, you know what I mean? But I think if I made that change in there, so one day soon the sun's gonna shine, you'll be mine until the end of time.
Feels like there's another chord in there.
Yeah,
there's
right?
one more.
So,
yes. Like you should do one more passing chord before you resolve.
Maybe instead of like the 9, like the D9, you just go to the 7. So 9, then 7, then to the E. So it'd be like one day soon the sun's gonna shine. You'll be mine until the end of time.
Yeah.
You know, like
something like that.
Yeah. So it's so much fun. So much fun. But yeah, just I too am on a journey with the ukulele. I'm always like seeking for, seeking things that I don't yet know. And for advanced music theory, people are like, oh yeah, and then they probably explained it already. Like it works because this, and this, but I don't know, and it sounds cool to me. That's how I write songs. It's fun. That's what makes ukulele fun. Yeah. And I just wanted to share that because we're talking about like, do you need music theory, or do you need like to understand like read music and stuff like that? The answer, right, with this perfect example is not really. Like, I didn't know. I just played it. It sounded good. Now I'm just gonna add it to to that song.
Yeah. But I guess understanding might deepen your appreciation.
Yes.
Though. Yes.
Yeah. Of like, okay, well, if this is this, then this is this, and this is this. So that makes sense because this is this or whatever. But I think it's cool to like just kind of stumble upon it. Like without knowing. It's kind of like knowing music theory is just having the having a map to like everything and knowing where everything is and knowing how you can get to one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also something cool about like just turning a corner and you're like, oh, where's this? Has this bakery been here the whole time? Like, look at this, man! Like it's so close to my house. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, well, and then that's why like people usually get caught off guard is because they're so used to hearing what's like the roadmap of a song or something. Yeah. And then when somebody plays something that's not there, they're like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" Right? Yeah. So, yeah.
Kind of like when Abe and U3, I always have to cite that when they played Wahine Ilikea and they they did that crazy like last verse to it that just sounded like something completely different. Like, and I talked to Lenny about that when Lenny was here the other week. He was just like, "Yeah, I want to do that all over again just to see the look on you, Craig, and Steven's faces when we played that." I'm like, "Oh, so you guys were watching, so you knew that we were gonna trip out."
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, check out U3. That's like Cynthia Lynn, Ukulele, and Abe Lagrimas Jr. Their album U3 has a version of Wahine Ilikea in it. That like it sounds pretty good. Then you get to that last verse, you're like, what is this witchcraft that is happening? So what's some Abe Lagrimas witchcraft?
Yeah. Like we heard it and it was like, oh, that's obviously Abe.
Yeah. Not for nothing, but I mean, like, Cynthia is also like a trained, musician, and so is Lenny. Like, when I went to music school, so all of it could have been any of them, but it's obviously obviously Abe.
We like me and Aaron were talking about Jacob Collier, right? And I said, like, I think Jacob Collier is like a musician's musician, where he does things that other musicians are like, that is crazy. What is going on?
Yeah.
But then it is like where it's, other people will be like, that sounds cool, I guess, but I don't understand why it's so impressive.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys don't understand. He took something that was like not supposed to be there and he made it fit. So that's why it's so impressive. Yeah.
It's cool. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to just experiment with stuff, because little old me, like, I mean, I think, my knowledge of music theory is pretty good enough to get me to where I am, but it's always nice to to discover stuff on my own rather than to like kind of know the music theory behind it, which would then be like, okay, well, of course that sounds good because it's this, and this. But in this case, I'm like, oh my God, listen to this, Aaron. Have that lingering note. Because I don't even know if it could be called C major 7 in this case. It might just be an A minor add 9 or whatever. A minor 7, so A9 or whatever, A minor 9.
Yeah, probably.
To go to the E. Yeah. So people in the comments are like, no, Aldrine is on A minor 9 instead. Don't think about it as a C major 7, but nope.
I don't. I don't think.
I think that's the answer. It's like a minor 9 going back to the 1, and I'm tripping out over it. Where people are like, no, it's just like a minor 9. It's fine.
Yeah. Kind of taking it back to the original question too. Yeah. Like how, like, do you need to know, and how much do you need to know? I think if you're a musician and you're playing with other people, you're probably going to hit a point where you can't communicate with other people without knowing music theory and knowing note names and stuff. So that's where it's like really helpful, and that's I think where you want to get proficient. Yeah. And if you get proficient at that, then like everything else kind of is like an add-on for ukulele playing.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
So I trip also. Everybody, I'm human.
Yeah, lots of good stuff in the chat. Brother Sam is making all kinds of comments about like examples of basically what you're talking about.
Cool. Yeah. My, like I have a pretty good, like knowledge of music theory, but every now and then there's like something that'll always surprise me, like when I hear it or discover it. It's like, so cool.
Yeah. I feel like, and with musicians, it's like, it's cool when a piece of music is complex, but it doesn't sound complex. So people like who are listening to it can just listen to it and enjoy it as it is. But people with music knowledge will understand like, this is crazy, like crazier than people know.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll get that visceral reaction even from people who don't know. It's just like, that was a great chord. Like, I was expecting this. But I don't know what you did there, but it sounds fantastic,
Yeah, it's stuff like that. Really cool.
I get that a lot because I don't know, like, really, but I know what I like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's answer a few more questions.
Okay, so Susan said, ideas for hosting a super fun holiday jam for my youth club friends at my place. How can I make this a great beginner-friendly jam for 10 people or so? Play along with YouTube vids?
That's good, like put together like a playlist of like play along and stuff. But I mean, you want it to feel a little bit more like intimate. So like a play along would be kind of like, okay, well, let's just jam these songs, just fine. But if it's just you guys jamming and not like not with a play along, if it's like somebody can lead, the jam, that would be nice. Pretty good. It'd be nice
if you had a leader, if you had just someone who was familiar with some easy songs and can lead the jam.
That's a good, it's a better idea, I think. Not saying that the play along thing is, would be bad. That works too, but I think it would be better if somebody led it. Okay. Another thing is to take a page from us as far as like the Aloha Friday Live Jam goes, and that's how you can make it beginner friendly. Because in Aloha Friday Live Jam, we play the song like how we play it, but we introduce like strumming that beginners can do that have them kind of strumming along to at least the groove, the beats of the of the song, so that they don't feel like, I don't know, they're doing this thing with the rolls and the chunky chunks and stuff. Like you don't have to be intimidated by that stuff, but just kind of groove along with with everybody else. So take a page off of our book. In that case, that makes it beginner friendly for people. Maybe pick keys that are a little bit more beginner friendly, because the point of it is not to like be the most impressive, right? So you don't have to play everything, to its original key. If your plan is to just have fun and make it beginner friendly, transpose it to a key that everyone knows: G, C, A, F, D. It doesn't have to be like super hard, like B or G sharp or anything like that. It just has to be like nice and manageable, like whatever. Whatever that key is. If it's difficult, maybe just move it like a half step up or a step or two or down or whatever. Transpose it so that everybody can sing to it. It can still sound close to the original, but the chords are very beginner and everyone friendly. And me, I'm like, I've played professionally for decades, and I would rather play in G than playing it in B or F sharp or anything that crazy. You know what I mean? Like if I'm doing it for fun. If I'm doing it for fun, it's easy to just play in those, because I can concentrate more on the having fun thing than I'm like, okay, well, here's how you play the F sharp, B, whatever, I can just concentrate on like on having fun. And in my case, like I don't have to explain like, oh, okay, well, what chord is that, or whatever. Then you're like, oh, this is what is a half diminished, stuff like that, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. All right, so make it as beginner friendly as you can by maybe transposing songs that are not so that are in keys that are not so friendly to the ukulele. And yeah, just try to simplify the strumming. You can still strum like, you know, however you want to strum with some fancy strummings, but make sure everyone has something that they can strum to, like even just like, you know, just down strums or down up, or however they want to syncopate it, you know, either. So
Yeah.
that'd be good. Yeah.
I think
Snacks also, sorry.
we had somebody ask kind of a similar question. I think they
Yeah.
were starting like a jam at their house.
Yeah.
And I think we gave them the advice that like start a group chat with like people who are coming to the jam
yeah.
and ask everybody like, hey, what songs do you guys want to play?
Yeah.
You know, and like just send in a YouTube video of the song or like sheet music so we can get
Yeah.
an idea. Everybody can get an
Yeah,
idea of what's
that's
gonna
true.
go.
That's true.
And then I think something that we do, like when we play music together, and I think we just do it like unconsciously, but if you're doing a jam, like put the chairs in a circle. So you're always like looking at somebody else. And so if there's somebody who's playing along with you and they don't know what to play,
Yeah.
they can hopefully look at, you know, one of the directions. And if you're like maybe the most advanced person there and you're doing like really advanced strumming, and you can see somebody else is like looking at you and they're having a hard time following along.
Yeah.
That's where you can like
Adjust.
like simplify your strumming and just be like that,
Yeah.
or even turn to them and and it really helps. Like if everybody else is keeping time and they're all playing the music, you just turn to them and go like, hey, this is the C chord, and then next up is coming A, F. You know, just give them like little hints here and there so they can follow along too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was telling you recently, I discovered a cassette tape. It's like my girlfriend's family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so the cassette tape was basically like because her grandpa played bass and guitar and ukulele, and so like they would often have jams just like in Kanekapila kind of in the backyard, and so the cassette tape was of that. Of the background, like a background jam, and so and you know it was obviously just like spur of the moment. Like there were maybe 2 or 3 people with instruments, guitar, ukulele, and maybe another guitar. And then they were just like hanging out and somebody just starts singing something and then everybody just chimes in. And then there was like, you know, a couple aunties that were singing harmonies behind and everybody's just like hanging out and having a good time. So cool. And so it was like just have like being in that situation is pretty amazing, and then the fact that I was able to experience what it was like, you know, just through that, and so like I busted out my ukulele, I was playing along. Cool. It was kind of crazy, and even they kept it to pretty much just the keys of G and C, because it's easy.
Have to be,
those are easy for both guitar and ukulele. And then everybody, they played classics like Under the Boardwalk, and like, you know, it's like
nice. See, it's a classic.
Cool.
It's a classic. Okay, stop hating on it so much.
Classic doesn't mean that it's good though. There's bad classics.
So yeah.
I think another tip too is like if you have a bunch of songs, like do like we do in the jam, where start off easy, right? Yeah. Start off with a song that you're pretty sure that everybody can play, and even like maybe do a couple songs that way, and then go into like songs that maybe people put in the group chat that it's like, this one is a little bit tougher, but just try and play along if you can.
If you can't get one chord, skip that chord. It's fine.
And then there are a lot of songs that you're pretty sure that most everybody knows. You know, that's helpful if you can introduce those songs, because then even if they don't know how to play it, they can at least sing along.
Like I think "Waiting in Vain" is a great song, right? Because it's just like 2 chords. You can play that song mostly with 2 chords, and people who are playing along, they can play with 2 chords, and then when it gets to the more complicated parts, it's like, oh, just stop, you know, hold yours and just like strum or something. You don't have to play.
But a lot of Christmas stuff is like 3-4 chords, you know, like, so it should be easy, and they're in relatively friendly keys, you know. So I think you can have you can have a good time with just some like good easy Christmas songs. And the easy ones are the ones that people want to sing anyway, you know what I mean? If you're getting too complicated, then it's like, I don't really know that one. Like, you get more people that don't know like those ones, but yeah, the classics never die. Like Jingle Bells and Silent Night, like those ones are like 3 chords, you know? Yeah.
Yep.
But I guess stuff like We Wish You a Merry Christmas is like a lot of chords.
Or what is it like? Or like I guess the more jazzy
Yeah,
Christmas songs. And what is sleigh bells or there's one of those like classic Christmas songs that's actually like more complicated.
Yeah, there's a lot. Sleigh Ride.
Yeah.
Sleigh Ride is pretty complicated, I think.
Or Carol of the Bells.
Carol of the Bells. Yeah, we play Winter Wonderland, which is usually just 3 chords, but there's it changes keys in the meadow. We can build a snowman.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of chords.
It's a lot, but you break it down, it's like it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like I feel like
concentrate when I play that song.
Yeah, when we play that song.
yeah, if you kind of intermix it with like hard, easy, hard, then it's like if the person skips that one song, then they can be like, oh, but I can come back in the next one.
Yeah.
So I feel good.
Yeah.
So
you can at least sing it, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, those are advice. Let's do 1 or 2 more.
Okay, so Andre said, Andre is kind of asking, what is your experience with teaching students who don't speak English or maybe speak very little English?
I think that's when the communication beforehand really makes a lot of sense, because if you're trying to tell them during the lesson, that's like when, remember I was saying like it kind of wastes time if you're asking the questions during. So before then, like have the email them saying like, hey, my English is not so well, but these are the things that I kind of wanted to work on. Here's my question. Like, I don't know if it makes sense, but this is my question. Let me know if you understand what I'm talking about, so that the teacher can kind of like, okay, let me just prepare, for this, or like, okay, this is what they want to work on. Even if we can't communicate very well, I at least know what they want to do. And we can get something done without getting specific. And if they want to do something specific, then you can just kind of save it for the next lesson, or try to see if you can explain it as best as you can, because we try to like understand what people are asking for. I have a lot of students, from all corners of the globe, actually, and like in different languages. So I always have a hard time with accents, and people are super nice to at least try to speak it in English to me, but it's tough, kind of listening through a person's accent, and then with Zoom and all that stuff, it gets kind of like distorted anyway, and microphones are not that loud, so it's kind of tough to hear. But if you write it down prior, I'll at least know, and it'll be a lot easier for you to compose yourself and think of the question to ask if you type it, rather than like if you're trying to communicate with the teacher beforehand. So that's all in like being having an open communication with your instructor.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, if you're gonna, you say like, I want to learn this thing or this song, the best thing is to send like an example of what you're talking about. Yeah. Like, and just like send a video of like, okay, it's what this person does at this time, and then you can click on it. Because like I've tried to help people through messages, and they explain the whole thing that they want to learn, and I go like, I think this is what you're saying, and then they send a video to me, and I'm like, oh, that's like super easy. Of course I can help you with that.
So any way you can, and I'm sure it was a lot easier for them to type out that stuff rather than like
and then,
so, you know what I mean? And then your 30 minutes goes by,
Kind of like what we were talking about too. Yeah. Like the person I was helping with, they tried to like, they're like, oh, it's this like crazy thing that this guy is doing, and he's using a lot of music theory terms. And I was like, I guess it's like this. And then when he actually sent the video, I was like, those are arpeggios using chords. Like these are the chords you can use. It's like pretty easy to break down. Yeah. So even if somebody tries to explain it through words, there's just,
just let us know what you're looking for, and we can kind of take it from there. Yeah. One more. Okay, do one more.
Somebody asked, what do you think of the ECEA tuning?
ECEA. I mean, just like with
changing the G, basically.
Yeah. So the G to an E, like you're tuning it down. I mean, I mean, it's the same as like any other tuning, like usually or any other D tuning, I should say. You either are playing an open tuning, which in ECA it would be like an open A minor, like an A minor tuning. So that's that would be your goal, is to play like some open strings to really emphasize that open A minor tuning. Yeah. And it just serves that purpose. I mean, all tunings have a purpose, or at least like have a goal, or have some intention of why you would tune it that way. And in that case, I think it's cool. It's nice. It's really really inventive, and I think it's good to just experiment around with a bunch of other tunings. I mean, yeah, I don't know what they were looking for. I mean, like, do you hate it, Aldrine? Do you hate ECEA Tuning?
I'm sure there's a song that
Yeah.
it would be helpful.
Sounds nice. Yeah, it sounds nice with. And there's songs that I play around with some tunings, but because I don't want to I don't want to have to keep tuning. I try not to, and if I do, it's usually just like one string that I detune to, to get it. It's because
you tune after every song just to keep it in tune, to single tuning.
So if I'm gonna detune my ukulele within the performance, I don't have an ukulele tech that would just hand me a tuned ukulele, on stage. I have to do it myself. So. Not the biggest fan of it being in my set, unless I'm just doing an open A minor in which I tune the G to an A rather than me tuning the G to an E. I've played around with with an open A minor tuning, and that's that. You can hear it on my 2023 platinum video for Kanilea when I played the one Kanilea with the silver stuff on it. They're platinum for this year, which is. I thought the video came out pretty good. I did an open A minor tuning to a song called Romance. Yeah. Which we teach here at Ukulele.
Yeah, we have a full lesson for that.
You would need a different string, right?
A low G string. No, but you can play Romance with a high G.
No, for that E.
Oh.
ECEA.
I mean,
could you get
you could get away with it, but it would be pretty
either
low.
really floppy or
super
tight.
And I mean, I just don't see the So it'd be, now you're gonna make me do it.
Yeah. Brada Sam said it just makes the tone sound fuller, more bass, and he said Hawaiian called it wahine when tuning saki.
It's like a slacky tuning. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like A minor, like an open A minor, but with the E on top. So you don't have to get a different string. You can still get
still
that
works.
to tune. Yeah, it's the tension is pretty good. It's not floppy or anything. So what could I do with this? I guess I could just play any note that I would on the E string, on the top. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it serves purposes. It makes for some really cool voicings and stuff. If I were to play C would be the same, But if I were to play F, that'd be kind of cool because it would be an F major 7 because you would have that major 7 up here. But if you didn't want that major 7, you have to be here. So for as an F add 9, or you play the F here and play the A. So some really cool experimental stuff that you could do with it. Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's kind of always the trade-off, right, with open tunings, is it makes some chords easier to play and it makes some chords harder to play.
Yeah, or impossible.
Yeah, so
yeah, it's nice.
When you play just the open strings, I think of Love Song.
Cool. Yeah. Next, we can do one more. That was kind of fast. We'll do one more.
Okay. Earlier, I think Juan asked if you do lessons on the weekends.
No.
Okay.
We do the school. I'm doing an academy here in Kauai, and the academy is going to be every Sunday as far as the pop-up stuff goes. So the pop-up academy happens on the week and Sundays.
And we're starting a club.
Yeah, I'm starting Ukulele Club. Yeah, Ukulele Club on Kauai. So if you're visiting and you're like, I don't have time for a class or anything, but I do want to just jam with Aldrine. Sundays, first Sunday of the month here on Kauai, jam Ukulele Club. I never thought I'd own one. I've been to, I think at this point I could say like 100 clubs. You know, like at this point, like lots and lots of clubs.
Visited and
lots of
played.
clubs. Never thought about starting one, but like I think Kauai could use like an ukulele community here. I'm not saying that there isn't any, but it's just I feel like we have a chance to make something mainstream.
Yeah. And Kauai is pretty special.
Yes.
So it's like
yes.
Yeah.
Love it here, and I want to stay here for the rest of my life. So if you guys want to come down and visit. Because a lot of people like have emailed saying like, hey, is there any ukulele thing on Kauai? Like I'm visiting Kauai. Like what other ukulele things like, is there?
Yeah.
And I have nothing to say. You know what I mean? Like
just some of our friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes
play. Like where is Fingers playing these days? You know what I mean? Like, and
basically
that's
just follow
like,
him.
Right. Because like Ben On used to be here. I used to tell people about Ben, you know, but he lives on Oahu now. So like I can't really, recommend Ben, but like there's Fingers that plays, and I mean,
on Kauai.
other than that, like I don't know who else like plays ukulele, because there's ukulele players, but they're mostly guitar players. That will play ukulele in a set.
Knox plays ukulele, but he plays guitar on stage more of the time.
Stuff like that. So I think bringing ukulele culture or an ukulele community on this island is one of our goals, because really we want to. Why not here? I don't know. I took a long, hard look at what I've done in the past 20 years, and it's always been like, I don't know, my goal has always been like the world. Like I wanted a classroom, like the world to be my classroom, you know? But at the same time, it's like I have not turned my back, but I've kind of ignored my own community here on Kauai.
And then now that you have kids, like you realize like the kids need things to do.
Yes. So there's like Bandwagon, which is like a music school here on Kauai, but I always get, I know I could be wrong, but I always get that, just like an after school program vibe from that, and it's more like let's form a band together, or you play a guitar, this person plays bass and drums and stuff, but the ukulele culture is not quite.
I think they do teach prominent. Ukulele, but it's more like
they do.
Like the kids come in and like, what are you interested in? And you can play anything, right?
But I want it to be like an ukulele academy here on Kauai,
just specifically ukulele.
Specifically ukulele. And I feel like I could do a better job with in-person learning. Like I've done, not to pat my own back, but I think I've done a pretty good job with the online learning thing through Ukulele Underground. But I feel like I can make a bigger impact if I'm teaching somebody in person. Just saying. So sign up for the newsletter over at aldrine.com. Aldrine.com. That's all your Aldrine needs, I guess. It's so weird to say that.
Eventually.
But eventually, I'm just stoked that I got the domain aldrine.com. And that leads somewhere. I guess I've always had that domain, but now it goes to a website. So and of course, we'll always be here at ukuleleunderground.com, ukuleleunderground.com for all of your ukulele learning needs. Boom. There it is. So for all your ukulele learning needs, ukuleleunderground.com. Songs, lessons, we have a shop.ukuleleunderground.com as well. So if you guys want to buy an ukulele, you guys want to buy some lessons instead of like signing up for UU Plus, if you want to just I just want just that lesson. I just want to learn just a fretboard, right? Because Aldrine talked about learning the fretboard in this episode. We have that, so check out shop.ukuleleunderground.com. It's almost Christmas, so a brand new ukulele wouldn't be a bad idea to see under somebody's tree, right? So or like a download of a lesson from Ukulele Underground.
Yeah.
You gift it. You're like, hey, I've always wanted to master my fretboard. Thank you for making that happen.
I feel
See?
like, yeah, that's like one of the most common questions we get
Yeah.
from people is like, what ukulele should I start with, or
Yeah.
what lessons should I start with?
Yes.
Is like, or if you're getting it for somebody else, yeah, our shop like has ukuleles
Oh, that's yeah.
that are pretty good for pretty cheap, and then lessons to get you started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
like
also-
that word, cheap.
Oh, sorry, affordable.
Yes.
Yeah, no, also, recently we got permission from Matt Dahlberg
Yeah.
to put his chord melodies course on UU Plus for all
nice.
UU Plus members. So
Oh.
I'm working on getting that up, but yeah, so if you are a
value.
member of UU Plus, like look for that because it's in the shop. You can buy it in the shop. But if you're a UU Plus member, that's going to be free for you soon.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're still here. We're still doing the private lessons, like on Ukulele on the Ground. We're still doing this podcast. We're still doing Aloha Friday Live Jam. Sorry for the people who are like, wait, he's teaching like in person now, so is Ukulele on the Ground? No, we're here. We're still here. I've been doing it for the past like 2 months now, so don't worry. Okay, like I'm still here, at least for the time being. I'm still here. You don't gotta worry. Like Ukulele on the Ground. All good still, okay? So I'll see you folks next time. See you this Friday for Aloha Friday Live Jam. And if you're on quiet this weekend, bye. Aloha.